The apartment door shouldn't have opened. Not to a knock like that, 3 deliberate thuds that sounded less like knuckles and more like destiny clearing its throat. Kayla stood in her kitchen, frozen with a half-eaten slice of pizza suspended between plate and mouth. The knock came again. Harder this time, insistent. She wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody visited her at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Nobody visited her much at all, if she was being honest. The graduate astrophysics program had a way of turning people into hermits, and Kayla had embraced the isolation with the enthusiasm of someone who preferred equations to small talk. The third knock rattled the hinges. All right, she muttered, setting down her pizza and wiping her hands on her jeans. Through the peephole, she saw nothing. Just the empty hallway with its flickering fluorescent light and that persistent smell of old carpet. Against every horror movie instinct she'd ever developed, Kayla opened the door. The dragon stood there, 7 feet of scaled majesty crammed into a universe that clearly hadn't built doorframes with his kind in mind. His scales were the color of dying embers, deep crimson fading to ash gray at the edges. Wings, folded tight against his back, twitched with barely contained energy. His eyes burned with ancient fire, though something in that gaze seemed tired, defeated. "You're Kayla," he said, not a question. A statement delivered in a voice like grinding tectonic plates. She should have screamed, should have slammed the door. Should have done literally anything except what she did, which was lean against the doorframe and raise an eyebrow. "And you're in the wrong dimension," she replied. The dragon blinked. Once. Twice. Then something that might have been a smile crossed his massive snout. "Pyro," he said, extending a clawed hand that could have crushed her skull without effort. "Former Dragon King of the 17 Scorched Realms. Currently ... Between positions. Kayla stared at the offered hand for exactly 3 seconds before shaking it. His scales were surprisingly warm, like sun-baked stone. "You want to come in, or are we doing this in the hallway? Because Mrs. Chun next door already thinks I'm weird." Pyro ducked through the doorway, scraping his horns on the frame with a sound like nails on a cosmic chalkboard. He folded himself into her tiny living room with the awkward grace of a being designed for throne rooms and battlefields, not studio apartments with second-hand IKEA furniture. "Nice place," he lied, looking at her poster of the Pillars of Creation and the stack of textbooks that served as her coffee table. "You're terrible at this," Kayla said, closing the door and returning to her pizza. "Want a slice?" "Dragons don't eat," he started, then stopped. "Actually, yes. I haven't had pizza in 3 centuries. She tossed him the box. He caught it with reflexes that suggested he'd caught significantly more dangerous projectiles in his time. "So," Kayla said, settling into her desk chair and spinning to face him. "Dethroned Dragon King shows up at my door at 11 p.m. This is either a very elaborate prank, or the universe just got interesting." Pyro consumed an entire slice in one bite, looking momentarily surprised by the taste of pepperoni and cheese. "I was overthrown," he said, his voice carrying the weight of mountains. "By my own council. They said I was too soft. Too interested in peace with the lesser species. Too willing to see value in beings without scales and fire. Sounds like you had a bad management team. They locked me out of my own realm. Severed my connection to the eternal flame. Stripped me of everything except my physical form and my memories." Looked down at his claws, opening and closing them slowly. "I've been wandering the dimensional barriers for weeks, looking for somewhere that would accept me. And you picked Earth? Specifically my apartment?" Pyro met her eyes, and in that moment, Kayla saw something that transcended species and reality. She saw exhaustion, purpose, hope worn thin but not quite extinguished. "I picked Earth because humans are strange," he said. "You're the only species in 67 dimensions that would look at a dragon, a being of pure destructive power, and your first instinct is to offer pizza." Kayla laughed, actually laughed. "You came to the right place then. We're spectacularly good at accepting weird." "Your species fascinates me," Pyro continued, warming to his theme. "You're so small, so fragile. Your lifespans are barely a blink. You have no natural weapons, no scales, no fire. By every reasonable measure, you should have been extinct before you invented agriculture. And yet, Pyro echoed, something like wonder in his voice. "You split the atom. You touched your moon. You sent probes beyond your solar system with messages of hope etched in metal, just in case someone was listening. You create art that makes immortal beings weep. You write stories about defeating beings like me, and then you make those stories come true. Kyla felt something shift in her chest. She'd spent years studying the cosmos, feeling simultaneously infinitesimal and connected to something vast. Here was a being who'd seen civilizations rise and fall, and he was in her apartment eating her pizza, telling her that humanity mattered. Why me specifically? She asked quietly. Pyro smiled, revealing teeth that could bite through starship hulls. Because 3 months ago you published a paper on the theoretical coexistence of dimensionally displaced entities and human society, a framework for integration. Your professors thought it was science fiction. I thought it was a roadmap. Kyla's breath caught. That paper, the one she'd written, half as serious research, half as wishful thinking about a universe bigger and stranger than anyone imagined. You read my paper. I read everything humans write about beings like me. Most of it is conquest fantasies or children's tales. Yours was different. You wrote about coexistence. About what dragons could learn from humans and humans from dragons. You wrote like you believed in both species. I do, Kayla said simply. Pyro stood, his full height making her ceiling suddenly very low. He extended his hand again, but this time it wasn't a greeting. It was an offer. Help me, he said. Help me understand this world. Help me prove to my people that they were wrong. That strength isn't just fire and conquest. That a dethroned king can become something better by learning from the species everyone else dismisses. Kayla looked at the hand, at the dragon, at the impossible choice that wasn't really a choice at all. She'd spent her whole life studying distant stars, wondering if anyone was out there wondering about her. Now the universe had knocked on her door, asked for pizza, and offered her a chance to rewrite the rules of reality itself. She took his hand. Okay, she said. But you're paying half the rent, and you have to stop scraping your horns on my doorframe. Pyro laughed a sound like thunder rolling across mountain ranges, and Kayla knew that her quiet life of equations and isolation had just ended. Something infinitely stranger was beginning. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent as always. But in one small apartment on one small planet, a human and a dragon sat down to share pizza and plan the future. The universe, for once, was paying attention.